Hello, I'm Justin. This is Kellan. Welcome to the Fizz. Kellan, my man, what do you got for today's drip? What's catching your attention on the newswire?
Well, I think everyone's talking about the Anthropic Claude Code leak.
Oopsies. Oops.
I think what's interesting has been like the Reddit engineers going through the source code and like pulling through their thoughts and different things, different takes. And then the other engineers basically schooling them on that, like all like software is basically looks like it.
Right.
There's kind of this weird push-pull, even within the engineering community, about what good code should look like in production. And it's interesting that like a lot of the people were like security and, those kind of things were the concern. Some were like mostly good code shipped to production is good code, right? Pristine code in development doesn't do much for society.
Definition of useless to society.
And I think the general consensus is that like most people aren't quite aware how much production day in and day out code like Microsoft or like any SaaS company's code is kind of hobbled together a little bit more than people with like 15 catch blocks and like commented up and like more than I think people think.
You can just go to any website or app that's available in a browser and just open DevTools and watch the console. Like, you'll find stuff. You just will.
Yep. But they generally, those apps generally work. And that seems to be the bar. There's not really a big surprise that there's a lot of security breaches. But anyway,
it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And there's a lot of ways into systems and a lot of ways to, it's tough. And you got, big engineering teams at some of these companies. It's, I don't really understand how the leak happened through NPM and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand how that can happen, but maybe you do.
Well, probably the best I could do it, like a layman's explanation, is an engineer created a file for debug that included these source files for whatever reason. But that debug file didn't get captured in like the equivalent of like a git ignore. So for people not familiar, a git ignore is like files I have on my local computer that I want to be ignored when I sync my code up to the cloud where other people can see it. And so that step was sort of overlooked or missed. And so then this stuff got published up and it was able to be found in the packages. Because when you download Claude Code to your computer, you pull all these packages that your computer needs, and the source files were erroneously included. What I'm curious about, and I don't know if Anthropic will be transparent about the answer to this type of question ever, is who missed this? Because they've been very vocal about Claude Code writing 100% of Claude Code, right? So I think, accountability, I think we would agree, ultimately always comes back to the human engineer that designed a system to work a certain way. But it's like, was this something that, just went unnoticed by humans and AI altogether? And now they'll come up with a solution to prevent this from happening again. It's like all the safeguards we have in technology are the result of something going bad the first time.
Yep.
But, and I don't find this issue to be unique to AI. It's ironic, but people have been making mistakes with software development and exposing stuff since we were putting curly braces in a terminal screen. You know? Yeah, but I think, so when stuff like this happens, Anthropic's source code leaked on the internet, like the hype train jumps on it and everyone's like, oh, look, and this person, they forked it and built their own version of Claude Code and they shared it with the world. Even something as like, even this is, though it's an advanced idea, I think the rule applies. Ideas are cheap. Execution is everything.
Yes.
Like, just because the source code is out there doesn't mean that everybody and their cousin Brad is going to go have their own Claude code. Some really smart, capable people might build their own harness, but Anthropic will get through this crisis because they're investing in creating value for their users and the people that
Mhm.
subscribe to their products. And, you know, I think they'll get by it. But yeah, unfortunate own goal uh, by somebody having a bad day.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
think I kinda wanna double down on that because I think in some ways I kind of assumed or,
Mm,
like, didn't say it out loud, what you just
right.
said. Um, there's a lot of talked about, like, the 80/20 rule a little bit, where, like, the 20% of development
Mhm.
is just heads down, like, it's hard,
Yeah.
and you need, like, a team and a vision and goals and to really get your hands dirty to really add value. So, yeah, people could one shot their own Cloud Code, fork it,
Mhm.
do whatever they want, but they will lack maybe they'll have some of this, but they'll lack the long-term vision,
Mhm.
a mission, all of the engineers that have been adding features at the right pace and
Right.
value. So all of that, like, they'll have a hard time replicating that, if not impossible, honestly. I mean, obviously for Anthropic's competitors, I think it gives them a kind of an unfair glimpse into what Anthropic's thinking, but ideas evolve and stuff, so, like, I wouldn't even expect that code base it was the final product in terms of, like, release. Things change too quick, technology, whatever.
Mhm.
So, they may have gotten a glimpse into different features that they may be coming out soon, but if this same thing happened to OpenAI, I think the same thing would happen where they would just adjust their, get with their engineering team, like reset.
Right.
Uh, and all of these things are still very important. Like it's funny, it, the more engineering moves closer to the business, the more people make this false assumption that engineers are no longer important, things
Right.
like that.
Right.
And I actually think engineers have never been more important.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like because Claude Code can't be your engineer. The human is critical in ensuring that the right value is being provided, the right guardrails are set up, that there's a clear mission being followed.
Mhm.
All participants are playing, the same sport. Like there's a lot of stuff happening
Mhm.
in the engineering world that is changing, but has not
Mhm.
become less important. Uh, and I'm saying this like I'm not really an engineer. I'm more like on the business side with some technical skills. Like I think engineering's still very important,
Mhm.
and so I think some ways, with the massive adoption of like GitHub and things like that, where
Mhm.
there's like kind of pretend engineers all over the place. I'd like if I was one of those people, I would, and I am doing this a lot, which is like really increasing my skill of the engineering practice in
Sure.
a sense. Like start improving your engineering like chops. I think is a really good skill for people to start learning because those processes, skills, whatever,
Mhm.
all that stuff were were built for a reason. Like they're actually really good. Like they're meant for control, quality, consistency, security, all of the things. Like they're in there for a reason. They'll move faster, but they still exist.
Yeah.
And so, just some piece of advice for people like pick up an engineering book as far as like workflow goes and things like
Mhm.
that. I think do you a world of good. And also, you can speak to Claude a little bit more intelligently too about
Right.
controls and so forth. So anyway,
So, a little whoopsie for Anthropic, but I think this will pass. All right, so let's head inside the bottle. Give a little taste of some of the things we've been working on here. Tiny bottle. Kellan, I became genuinely jealous of the visual aids you've been putting together. And so last night the kids in April, they were watching something on TV and I was sitting in my recliner trying to trying to one up you. So,
I don't think it's gonna be hard to do. I think you got me.
but I thought today would be a good episode to talk a little bit about what we call the content machine, which is the process we use to help us record this show, edit this show, determine what ideas were worth repurposing into other posts and lots of other things. And it's a process that gets better and better every week because we realize things we could tweak about it. But it's also a process that has lots of human and AI collaboration points, which I think is might be interesting for us just to talk through it together. And you might even have an
Mhm.
idea or two of like, oh, we could tweak that as we walk across how this thing works. But you know, why this matters for us is everything we're doing so far, recording this show, writing a newsletter, doing articles, putting things on LinkedIn, doing the short clips of these takes, that could easily consume over half of my available time if I just did it myself.
100%. Yeah.
So I think just to give context, the raw takes from the Fizz are anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 2 hours in total content that gets put down. And we try and get the episode down to about 30 minutes. And so the first time, like, watch the whole thing back. And, I was like, there's no way I could do this every time. Because when you watch it back and you make the transcripts of it, you're investing probably a whole day,
Yeah.
right? Figuring that out. It's like, that's not reasonable. But at the same time, I think we value, and I think the audience values a level of authenticity in the things you put out there. So we could absolutely spin up Claude Code or an open Claude and just say like, hey, come up with 9 hot takes about AI and we'll post about it on LinkedIn, right? And it would sound super AI and fake or whatever, but we're trying to figure out what this process is. How can we invest our value, our ideas, our opinions, our takes on things, and then get help making that ready to be distributed in across different formats? So I put together a visual illustration of how this process works. And I'd like to walk you through it today, Kellan.
Love it.
Hot start. All right. So I got to be honest. I had my R2D2 bot. I started with it and I said like, hey, can you go pull the brand definition from where it can be found? And it could not. It just couldn't. It just refused. So I had to, I had to switch gears and get back into old reliable Claude Code for this. But this is a process diagram. And I'll just kind of explain how this works all the way left to right. So and we'll differentiate between human and AI here. So every week, what we do is we don't take a lot of time, but we generally discuss what do we want to talk about on the Fizz this week. Hey, I saw a couple things in the news that I think are interesting, or I made this progress with the command center, and so we could show that. It's like honestly, maybe like a 15-minute conversation, if that. We
Mhm.
get a general idea of what idea do we think has enough meat on it where we could create enough material. And so once we have an idea, there's lots of things that need to get done. So after that, there's an AI process that plans out all the things that need to happen. So instead of us remembering, hey, I got all these tasks, I need to record an episode on a Wednesday and I need to cut it down on Thursday, or I need to write this art, like we have an AI that just lays out our task board for us in a reliable way for us every week. Again, so we stay on task. And then this shows up in the command center app you were showing on our previous episode, so we can keep ourselves organized. And that's just mainly administrative bloat, right? That we don't need to spend our time doing that. Then we do our prep, right? So we'll kind of read articles, we'll become educated, we'll think about things, we'll make visual presentations like this one so that we're ready to go. Then I do an article too. So this is something I changed. When I first started using AI to do writing, I would like just sort of give AI, hey, here's an idea and like some bullet points of the story I want to get across, write this article. And every time I was like, man, but that doesn't sound like me at all. So I don't let AI touch the first draft anymore. I just sit down with my laptop and I just type, write until I'm happy with where I've got. And so that's how I make sure that I'm giving my own opinion, my own thoughts, my own way of talking about things before AI gets into the party. So that article path now is in motion, started by a person. And then I have an editorial AI that reviews that article. So that's where I can get some help and says, hey, you've got a really interesting story here, but this part really doesn't add to it. You could tighten this part up, or you should say this first, but it's very explicit in this AI's instructions. Don't re-say things. Don't eliminate my voice, just help my voice come through more clearly. And I think I'm having a pretty good experience with that. Then we do our podcast recording. We're doing it right now. We use Riverside as our platform, and we just get on and we just go. We don't script this out. We do some prep. We think about our opinions and sort of on our own, but we just go. And so then, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, we end up with somewhere between 1 and 2 hours of raw footage. But what I can do now is I just download the transcript and I tell my agent, hey, the transcript's available. And then the AI starts suggesting what the cuts are. So it reads the transcript and it says, hey, it sounds like you had like a technical hiccup. You got to delete that part. Or, hey, the point Kellan was making about this idea is really, really important, but you guys just went on and on and on about it for a while. You could trim this part out. And so the AI, and it does this really, really fast, it produces a page for me in Notion with all the suggested segments of the transcript to just cut and the rationale. So I can disagree with it. It's like, no, I actually really liked when we talked about that personal thing. That was kind of funny. And so we'll keep that in. But that was a huge time saver for me to have that process work. And so then the final transcript then becomes available by the AI in Notion. And this is where then things can start kind of spawning off for us, because again, we want everything we put out in the world to originate from our own thinking, like the things we actually wrote or the things we actually said as much as possible. Once I have the final transcript, I do go in and I do the final edit, do some, mastering. We put the logo in there and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't take me nearly as long as it would if I did the whole thing top to bottom. Like, this is the difference between investing like an hour of time and like 10 hours of time. To have those like 2 steps in the process is pretty incredible. But then once we have the final transcript, we have an AI system that starts drafting other posts. So that includes things like our newsletter, our show notes, the description of the show that we'll post on our platforms, things we're going to post on LinkedIn. Again, all originating from this show. So for us, we get this benefit of having kind of one time intensive creative act that we get a lot of leverage from later, which we need as a small team. And then we review and polish it. So all these things get deposited in our publishing calendar in Notion. We go in, we tweak things, but we get way off the starting line and way off the blank page from the AI. And then everything gets queued up to get published and send. So the AI will grab the final newsletter and it puts it up in the platform we use for sending those emails out, gets everything queued and ready to go, does the same thing with the podcast. And so then, every week we can go through this process when then, the article gets published, our podcast goes live across the platforms we're posting that on, newsletter goes out, and we run our LinkedIn posts. And so this system, I think without AI, we would just flounder. Like, I think we could figure out what needs to happen. Like, I think we obviously can define the tasks, or we couldn't build this type of system, but we would spend so much time doing this that we wouldn't be able to do other things that we need to do to get Tiny Bottle going. And so this is kind of just this breakdown in the process that I think is a helpful way to think about AI as this collaboration between the human stuff, what's unique about what we bring to the process, and where can AI create lots of value for us. And I think over the first few weeks of starting Tiny Bottle, this has improved for me dramatically, because I've been the one mostly kind of doing all the, let's call it like the post-production type stuff. And like, I very quickly realized, like, I cannot spend this amount of time every week on this. Like, we have client work, we have business opportunities, like I have to be available beyond these things. And so this this has opened up a ton of my schedule. And it's also created opportunities for us to do other things from a marketing or a community engagement point of view that we probably couldn't do as just two people with AI,
Mhm.
two people without AI. So I just thought it would be interesting to walk people through how this all works.
Yeah, this visual's way better. I don't know. The bar has been reset.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I wanted to zoom in on the the transcript step because I think you've unlocked something there that I think is really human derived as far as like where AI can actually provide value.
Hmm.
And that is that we spend these hours like talking about different things, providing our takes, any type of wisdom or experience, or just
Hmm.
general takes on different things that is from like our brains. And it's very difficult to like we can capture all that, but it's very difficult to capture it in the same way that talking through it can do. Getting the transcripts kind of in AI readable kind of formats, I think unlocks like a huge leverage point for for editing the episodes as far as like, cuts and things like that, splicing it, reminding us about certain topics that might be
Hmm.
good to 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 convert into written format and different things like that, that I think it might just be like the most valuable part of this workflow, other than us just spending the time talking about things. And then obviously just the holistic kind of thoughtfulness you put into like the actual flow itself is
Hmm.
where like AI could suggest something, but they might cut corners and it might
Right.
not work within the systems and flows we already have. But yeah, this is incredible. I have my own offshoot of this. It's a visual. Let me just pop open my. I'm just kidding.
While you were explaining this, I came up with four or five next generations. I wouldn't put it past you.
No, and I'm the beneficiary of like some of these outputs,
Hmm.
right? So that I can go write some LinkedIn content or whatever based on the type of thing that we want to be talking about.
Right.
Yeah, keep like this process allows for that to kind of organically happen without
Yeah.
AI injecting itself in a in the process where it kind of goes against that goal.
Right.
So it lifts where it can lift, and we lift where we can lift, and I think that's the right approach. It's really good.
Yeah. And I think there are situations like this beyond just content where having you like having the human ideas come through are really meaningful,
Hmm.
like whether it's, sales activities or networking or just, the way a business runs internally in operations where, you could offload almost all of this to AI.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm not saying AI is not capable at coming up with a compelling topical idea for a podcast like ours.
Hmm.
It could do that. But if you handed all that off and we showed up and we had some sort of script that was written by something, like that would be hard for us and we probably wouldn't learn very much in the process. Like when you have to do it yourself, a lot of these things get edited out, right? But when we pause and like, let me think about how to say this or what does this really mean? Or when you write something, you have to really wrestle with it. So, if you've been out there kind of nervous or afraid to how to leverage AI in these types of workflows, maybe this gives you some other ways to think about it than art. I'm just going to hand off my brain to,
Yeah.
to a computer.
Yeah. I that is very interesting. Like we could have a whole episode on this topic, but the basically like
Let me go get some more coffee.
okay, but we're trying to offload everything and in the process losing a lot of ourselves.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a philosophical kind of comment, and it's not
Right.
necessarily intended to. But like if you get into like the mode where you're just trying to like what can I automate
Yeah.
versus like what can this add to me, like
Hmm.
that's a dangerous place, I think, because
Yeah.
let's just talk about writing or task management. Let's talk about those for a second. Like writing, the only way you get better at writing is writing.
Right.
And so you're like, if you offload that, you're never going to improve your writing. I
Right.
found even over the last couple of weeks, my writing is like kind of returning.
Yeah.
Like it's because I'm starting to get those reps again. Same
Yeah.
like working out, right? Like if you
Mhm.
offload working out to AI, which I don't know how you would,
You ain't getting in shape, buddy.
you're not getting in shape. So like it's the same kind of concept. You want to like leverage AI, not like abuse is not the right word, but like kind of get addicted to like
Mhm.
its capability. It's not always the right approach. And for task management is a good example. I've had like Asana and different type of like task board kind of tools in my past, and I've always believed that like the visceral is extremely important in your day to day, where like you're you're able to like connect your brain to the machine in a sense, not like
Mhm.
hardwired, but I'm saying like what is in my brain, get it onto a board, like an inbox,
Mhm.
like get like if I'm going to move a task, physically be able to drag it into a different day or like
Right.
period or like make that decision.
Right.
Don't let an AI or machine do it for you.
Right.
You lose the memory, you lose the discipline and
Mhm.
approach, and all of a sudden we're in the place where I guarantee you can't, most people cannot remember 3 phone numbers. I was even
Mhm.
telling my 7-year-old, I'm like, when I was a kid, I had probably 20, 30 numbers in my head,
Yeah.
phone numbers.
Yeah.
Like, that's not true anymore.
No.
So the same thing can happen here where like if you let AI write all your content, it might be readable and all that stuff, but
Mhm.
there is something you lose
Yeah.
personally. And that like I like that feeling of joy or whatever that like I am a good writer. Like my takes
Right.
do matter. Or like my opinion might not have been like as perfectly structured as like an AI would have, but like I think it was me.
You're right.
And maybe too many because
Yeah.
I have a habit of that. Like at least my personality is like coming through, and like that I feel
Mhm.
like I'm connected to this world, and AI is supplementing that kind of genuine human experience versus replacing it. So anyway, that's kind of my take. I
Yeah.
definitely think a whole episode could be on this, but that'd be
Yeah.
more of a philosophical pod probably.
Would be a
But I just
different
want to,
show. Different type of show.
yeah, deep
Deep takes
I
from
I'm
Kellan
just very
Danielson.
appreciative of, like, your workflow being, like, compatible with that kind of, like intentionally or not.
Mhm.
Like, it makes sense from a human perspective, but it also makes sense from, like, the effectiveness of a process with AI
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. Like automation for the sake of automation. Where does that really get you?
Mm,
It's like sort of the net value creation topic we've discussed before. Like,
AI for AI's sake, bad,
right.
and that,
Right.
like, there is a path for each person and company to integrate AI in the human plus AI good category.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. No. And yeah, it's fun. It was fun to create it. It's fun to wrestle with kind of those decisions. And we have lots of other processes coming together that are like this one, right? Where the
Mhm.
decisions on what's human, what's AI, where does the handoffs occur, how do they occur? Like those decisions are being made every day for us. And I think trying to create the situation where we can be as much as ourselves as we possibly can and not have to spend our time doing things that don't create a lot of value or a lot of joy for us. We try and figure out how do we not need to do those
Yeah.
things. But the guys on LinkedIn, they're like, I replaced my entire marketing team with a $20 a month subscription. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's not a limitation and the thing is, it's not a limitation of the model.
right.
It's just a inherent limitation, but, yeah, that's interesting. There's another element to this too, which is the kind of a community aspect that, like, AI is never gonna be able to replace, like, a human to human interaction. So, like, when we're talking, we're dynamically talking through things that will kind of ebb and flow into different areas that would just not naturally work in an organized, structured LLM kind of environment. Like you see like the digital therapists or digital
Mhm.
like employees or digital CEOs, different digital
Right.
X, and they are a temporary replacement for that role, in my
Mhm.
opinion, or an augment.
Right.
They should not be replacing a physical CEO, a physical
Mhm.
therapist, a physical doctor, a physical lawyer. Like these, like, you do actually need to be able to talk to a human and talk through them and use AI to supplement that
Right.
relationship. So
Right.
that's just my take. The goals are different for different people, but that community is important, human to human. We do that within the process that you built with the pod, and also just like kind of one-on-ones.
All right, well, if you like what you're watching, listening to, drop by tonabottleai.com. Check out what we're all about. You can sign up to our newsletter, The Weekly Fizz, which is a companion to this show. For now, we will see you in our next episode. Later.
Peace.